orders.
So what we saw with Steven Schlepphorst deck is we saw him be defeated, I believe it was by Chris Anderson with his Bantress deck, combo deck, a long time, way back during the Swiss rounds.
Right, but he managed to rally back. He snuck into the top 8 as the last seed. I believe he had a draw going into the last round too, so his back was really to the wall. He couldn't even draw in.
Yeah.
He's been on a nice tear since then.
Yeah, very, very well done. And just we saw Kendal Guthrie receive a loss to Justin Uppel, I want to say earlier in the deck. Earlier. Yeah.
So let's look at these players' sideboards. Since they are in game 2, both players having full access to the sideboard, of course. Steven Schlepphorst has natural orders available, so of course to go with the Progenitus. He has a little crop rotation package with that and Bojuka Bog. As you can see there on the screen, Grafdigger's Cage, a little tutor package.
Okay. And
let's see, what will he have? Maybe Envelop. Envelop counters an instant for 1 blue mana. Not bad against Rug Delver, although that's generally not the best way to fight it. I feel like the Envelops are more there for the combo decks than anything. Oh,
Envelop card is a sorcery, so it's different than Dispel. Right. Yeah, Envelop card is a sorcery, and that's for the Miracles matchup. It's because to protect himself from getting Terminus Miracled at him.
Right, makes sense.
Right. He wants that 1 mana spell. And yes, Envelop and Dispel together can make a negate.
I think I draft too many Dispels. That's the answer here.
So, Kendal Guthrie with Rug Delver against Bant, it's pretty he has a lot of good sideboard cards. He has the 4 Submerges and then 2 Red Blasts.
Wow, so he is definitely stocked up in terms of sideboard cards. Steven Schlepphorst, a little less so. Natural Order, not what he wants to be doing. Grafdigger's Cage, Bojuka Bog, these are not that good. He'll have the Bog in his deck, just in case he needs it to neuter any sort of mongoose. But it's not going to be his main plan, of course. Engineered Explosives will shine here. But other than that, really, his deck, he can't change it much with his sideboard. What do you think Kendal Guthrie will take out for these Red Blasts and Submerges?
So yeah, it's Red Blast, Submerge, possibly even Grim Lavamancer. What do you take out for that in this matchup? Well, I mean, you want to keep your staples in. The Bant deck's mana is not actually great, so I think that's something you would clearly keep in. I don't know. There's not too many things which I really want to board out here. So maybe it's just, not being. He has 2 Spell Pierce in the deck. That's something which should certainly be caught. A Thought Scour. That's a fine card to cut. He doesn't want to cut the Dismember. It's one of his best ways to deal with Knight of the Reliquary. Really, the thing is, he needs to make sure he's not too sneaky. If you have so much disruption, you need to make sure you're actually still killing the other person.
Right. Now, the thing about Daze too is that you can really sideboard out Daze against the people who play around it. So this is really more player dependent. So if Kendal noticed that Steven Schlepphorst was playing around Daze at all costs, I would side Daze out. Because he's doing your work for you. You don't need the Daze if he's doing that. In fact, oftentimes that's what you want your opponent to do. You want your opponent to always play around the Daze a lot of the time. Especially when you're on the play and pressing the issue. But not sure how the first game went. Not sure how these players sideboarded. We'll see when they draw their openers.
Both players on 6 cards here. So there's a Kendal on the left. Remember, he is on the play again here. In that sense, I think it may just Kendal being the more consistent deck might be the one which mulligans a little bit better.
Yep, as we saw Rug Delver just a few minutes ago, Muldify is still a very powerful draw.
He can operate so well on just 1 land, 2 lands. A lot of times are very keepable. All right, and we're getting underway. Kendal's going to lead out on Volcanic Island into Delver of Secrets.
Yep, great turn 1 from Kendal. That's exactly the creature he wants against Steven.
Schlepphorst has a wasteland of his own. Not really. I think what he could be trying to hedge here and think if that's Kendal's only land, that might be a pretty sweet play.
That's generally not the right line when you have to qualify your plays with if this and this, then my play is good. It's usually not good. You should usually go for the safer play.
Guthrie's Delver does not flip. He's drawn Tarmogoyf, though. He does have a second land for Tarmogoyf. He's going to attack for 1. Probably set up a Ponder here as opposed to making a Tarmogoyf.
Right. He wants to play the Ponder here because he'd love to draw something like a Spell Pierce, a Daze, something that he can do with that 1 mana.
Yep. Oops, a little bit using the wrong land to Ponder there. He finds a Lightning Bolt. Probably doesn't. I mean, what this does is it doesn't represent lightning bolt, which is, I think what you want to be pondering off the top.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would probably draw the Stifle, put the Bolt next, and Wasteland on the bottom.
Yeah, which one do you not want him to know about? That's the real question.
Right, well, you want the Stifle in case Steven Schlepphorst's next turn is fetch land, crack it, and you want the Bolt next to flip the Delver.
Yep, and that definitely. And he agrees and makes the same play.
Yeah, I like that play from Kendal Guthrie, and he'll say go.
Yep. Ken Schlepphorst waiting for a cut. He shuffled off the fetch land, has not been had. No. Alright. So, turn 2, Schlepphorst is going to need to have some sort of clock here. He has a Casali Pride Mage, but that can't be made off basic island.
No, and that's one of the things when you're playing against a deck with Wasteland, you have to fetch up your basics, but you have to make sure that you also don't lock yourself out of spells when you get these basics.
Right. He's obviously worried about the Stifle, it's a card that exists.
Right. Sometimes you play yourself out of spells, though. Certainly seen that before, players fetching up too many basic lands. Usually people err on the side of fetching up too few basic lands, but it is possible to go the other way, too.
He's going to waste the trap. The question is of whether Guthrie wants to stifle the Wasteland now.
I think he should.
Yeah. Yep, he's going to stifle the Wasteland's activated ability. So in Zenzi, he did stifle Steven's land drop.
Yeah, he did. In a little different way than maybe he expected. I doubt he expected a Wasteland on his drop, but it actually would have been very good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about how much I like the Wasteland play there. I mean, he doesn't have too many options available to him. But he has to remember, Schlepphorst is behind on the board. Trading lands isn't exactly what you want to do while behind.
I'd say that's the opposite of what you want to do while behind. He's basically time-walking Kendal Guthrie, not advancing the board state, but being at 3 less life for the next turn.
And then Guthrie, all right, full commit. He knows that Schlepphorst doesn't have too many sweepers. He's going to play Tarmogoyf, so now we have instant sorcery land. It's a 3/4.
Yeah, 3/4. Ready to become a 4/5 on command when the lightning bolt gets used, too. So now, Steven Schlepphorst thinking about brainstorming in response, trying to find a force of will.
Yep, and he's going to brainstorm in response. Remember, one of the problems finding a force of will, there's not that many, but you also have to make sure he has a blue card.
I don't think he did either.
No. So, yeah, that getting island, so yeah, he's going to put back Casali Pride Mage and Green Zone Zenith. He has Maze of Ith here. That's pretty good, except remember the next card in Kendal Guthrie's deck is a Wasteland.
Right, and if he spends his land drop playing Maze of Ith and then it gets Wastelanded, his life total is halved then, and he's in a really rough shape.
Yeah, Guthrie just needs to, he's downhill. He just needs to coast for 2 turns, probably only 2, maybe 3.
Exactly. The Rudd deck is kind of like a rolling bolt.
Yeah.
Just accelerates as it goes. And Schlepphorst thinking about his land drop. Not sure if he wants to play the Maze or potentially Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor or a Noble Hierarch. I think as much as it stinks to lose to a Wasteland, Maze of Ith might be the right play here.
Alright. So, yep, he's gonna crack fetch land. I mean, right now he's fairly safe from any stifle action. One of the dangers here about cracking this fetch land, it was him at 14. If they can find one more card can find its way in the graveyard, one more card type, this will decrease his clock by a turn. 3 turns to 2 turns.
So what is Steven's play here? Did he have 2 swords in hand? Was that the promo on the left, or are those Knights of Reliquary? Can't quite tell.
Unclear.
Steven play him kind of close to the chest in this match. Might be new to the feature match scene.
Sometimes there is another stifle in Kendal Guthrie's hand. He has a Wasteland. I mean, clearly he's gonna waste the duel. Yeah. And so of course that's one of those miserable feelings. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Schlepphorst played around the stifle but played into the Wasteland. So
you can't do both.
Right. It's kind of a tough spot.
So you didn't catch a basic. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Right. Misty can't get planes, which is probably the basic that he wanted there.
Yeah, and actually, Schlepphorst doesn't have a plains. That would be why. His only basics are Island Forest, so he can't actually protect white mana for himself. that would be why he didn't fetch it. I was thinking literally, like, I really would have fetched planes there, but
Well, Misty can't get planes anyway.
Right. I mean, but yeah, I guess Misty can't get. Okay, yeah, that's fair. And Stephen draws another wasteland. Okay.
Had it. Had it.
Sure. All right. Push you to 2.
And bolt you for good measure.
I bolt you. All right. And then, that's one of the fun things about Rug Delvers when you kill your opponent and their board is basic island.
Yeah.
That's their entire board. There's that aspect of Rug Delvers which can just be brutal in certain matchups. So, Guthrie manages to take game 2. And as we know, being on the play, Rug Delver's really excellently situated for that.
Exactly. Steven Schlepphorst, though, by virtue of winning the first game, he gets to be on the play for game 3.
Right, so, yep. By being able to kind of score the break point against Kendal Guthrie, yeah, he is advantaged here. He does need to make sure, I think, that does seem to be very relevant in this matchup, especially in the early game, the fact that he does not have basic planes in his deck. The reason he wouldn't have it is his fetch land suite is 4 Misty Rainforest, 3 Windswept Heath, so fetching basic planes is a little more difficult. He would only have 4 sources of it in his deck.
Exactly. Now, also, the white cards in his deck, he has 4 Knight of the Reliquary and 2 Kasali Pride Mage. That's it. He, of course, has more after sideboard, but the Nobles and the fetch lands for the duels, usually enough to get that done.
Right, the problem was that his hand was full of them this last game. So, we found him actually unable to cast any spell against against Kendal Guthrie's, multiple wastelands. And Schlepphorst kind of kicked himself a little bit as he added a wasteland to the party, too. He wasted one of Kendall's lands.
He did. Unfortunately, that wasteland, though, that didn't help him cast any of his spells. All his spells had such specific mana requirements that the wasteland didn't do anything.
Right, and I think that's one of the things, when I'm looking at this Bant list, you have 3 wastelands but couldn't find room for a plains. Part of me wants to I understand that 2 wastelands is worse than 3, but sometimes you do lose points by making your deck a little less consistent.
Exactly, and this kind of reminds me of Brandon Large's Jund deck from earlier in the day. He found room for 3 wasteland in his deck, but really they didn't belong in his deck either.
Well, wasteland is such a powerful card that a lot of times you want to run it in a lot of decks because it will actually help your percentages in many matchups. So it's not unreasonable to try to put a wasteland in a lot of the different decks lists that you build. Where that's going to come into problems with you, and we saw it as a problem with Brandon Large's Jund deck and here, is that Rug Delver is a better wasteland deck in the format.
Exactly. So it's way faster. Right.
Well, Rug Delver is essentially trying to color screw people, it's trying to mana screw people, and because it's such a popular deck, if you're running a wasteland deck that isn't Rug Delver, you're actively hurting your Rug Delver deck by being a wasteland deck, and we were seeing this here.
Exactly. Now, Steven Schlepphorst could easily cut these 3 wasteland for a basic plains. Yeah. Oh, I mean, he could even cut the Caracas for a basic plains too.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that every deck is a bad wasteland deck other than Rug Delver. I think Merfolk is an excellent wasteland deck.
I won't argue with you there.
Yeah, Merfolk Goblins is a great wasteland deck. These are decks, though, which are also very resilient to wasteland. The problem is that Rug Delver is the only deck, I think, fast enough to be completely hurt by wasteland and playing 4 of them.
Right. I mean, you look at these 3 decks that are good with wasteland, the Merfolk, the Goblins, and Rug Delver. What do these decks have in common? They have a lot of free spells they can cheat on mana. If it's through Aether Vial, Lackey, or just
flipping a Delver.
Actual free spells. Yeah.
Right. Delver, because it's kind of has this flip characteristic, you're getting a 3/2 for 1. You are cheating some mana costs there.
Right. Definitely saving a lot of mana, paying 1 blue for a 3/2 flyer. So these are the good wasteland decks, the ones that don't need that mana, to cast their spells.
Right. So, all right. So we're seeing still both players. I think they've decided on their sideboard. One of the questions is whether or not you'd want to re-sideboard with either of these decks versus play and draw. Rug Delver certainly is a deck that it takes on a different enough characteristic on the play and the draw that it wouldn't be unreasonable to say that that's something you'd want to do. Perhaps I really like a full set of Submerges on the play, but on the draw, I find that they're not as effective. I'd rather have more removal spells.
Right.
I could see arguments like that do hold a lot of weight. Submerge is certainly a card that's brutally efficient when you're ahead. And not to say that Rug Delver always hopes that it's ahead, but on the draw is ahead less often.
Yeah, I think the card in Kendal Guthrie's sideboard that best fits that description is the Rough Tumble.
Right.
The Pyroclasm aspect, of course. So when Steven Schlepphorst goes Noble Hierarch go, and then you go land go, if they play either a 2/2 Knight or a Kasali Pride Mage or another Noble Hierarch or a Scavenging Ooze, which they have a lot of these creatures, you can blow them out with Pyroclasm.
Right. It's probably a little ambitious to try to get a Knight of the Reliquary with a Rough Tumble.
It is.
But the idea is the same. There's certain cards which actually do change values on play or draw. I mean, we may see Kendal it looks like he was re-sideboarding for this game. It's not because he's sideboarding. He's changed his mind on how to sideboard this matchup. It's probably more so that you may actually re-sideboard at play versus draw.
Right, and they aren't big changes. They're just little tweaks, but these little tweaks when you draw certain cards on the draw in matchups, it's miserable. None of them in Kendal's deck really jump to mind, though.
Yeah, so remember, these two players, for those of you just joining us, are fighting for the chance to battle against Ben Robinson, the tournament's last undefeated player in the finals here in the Legacy Open in St. Louis. Ben Robinson, by virtue of being the last undefeated player, is the highest seed in the tournament. He will be on the play in the finals. He has, very interestingly, he's defeated two of this tournament's strongest players in the top 8. He defeated Justin Uppel in the top 8, 2-0 in about 20 minutes, proceeded to do the same thing to Caleb Durward in the top 4. And, on the play, you have to wonder, both either of these players are particularly excited about facing Robinson in the finals.
I wouldn't be. Robinson really impressed me with his play today. The fact that he's on the play, the fact that he's clearly a rug delver expert. The speed of his play alone tells you that he's played this deck a good amount.
Right. It's definitely, if you get the chance to watch some of the replays of this when it goes on to coverage, especially in the top 4, he managed to take a mulligan to 5 on the draw against Caleb Durward and really parlay it into a win with running very good strategic choices, and ones I think most players wouldn't make. It was rather counterintuitive.
Right, and of course, he was helped out by Caleb's poor draw in that game, but, and maybe for the first time on camera ever for Caleb. But, Ben Robinson in the finals. They'll wait for the winner of this match.
Right, both players are starting hand. Schlepphorst seems to be a little undecided about whether his hand's really a keeper or not. Quite a lot riding on the match, so he wants to make sure that he averages this with the possibility to be able to. He doesn't want to not show up for the fight. You really don't want to keep a 2-land or stick on 2 for your entire deciding match.
Exactly.
So Schlepphorst will be mulliganing.
Think long, think wrong. Is that the one?
Yeah. Certainly there's a tell to your opponent when you think that long. Which you can abuse that and intentionally tank on really good hands.
We call that the slow roll.
Kind of a slow roll. But there's certain at that point you are already communicating.
Right. So
he is
Schlepphorst. I didn't see the hand, but I'm guessing he made the right decision. Against any deck with a wasteland, a marginal hand is such a liability.
Well, and it's really hard to try to keep those hands because it's so disappointing in such a pivotal match as this to open your hand and see that it's something you should probably mulligan, because the last thing you want to do is handicap yourself in a really important game. So I think lots of players in important games tend to keep bad hands when they shouldn't.
Yep. They don't want to lose to a mull to 5, so instead they lose to their mediocre 6 or their unplayable 6 or whatever it might be.
Right. Now, myself, I've been guilty of that once or twice.
I think we all have, yeah.
All right, so 6 cards for Schlepphorst. Doesn't appear to be too much better. I think he has a 1-lander with the only land being Forest.
If the hand has a noble to go with that Forest, it's probably a keeper.
He's
or
keeping
a green sun.
All right, so turn 1. There was a fetch land in there as well. All right, so the fetch land, cracking it on the play while it's safe here. Remember, he can get an island. He has a forest in his hand. He does not have a plains in his deck. He's going to go for a basic island, so that's his. He only has the 2 basics in his deck.
Exactly.
So.
1 basic island, 1 basic forest, the rest a slew of non-basics.
Yeah, but, Kendal Guthrie in his hand with a stifle and a wasteland certainly was at the ready to go at his mana base.
Yeah. Imagine if Kendal Guthrie was on the play this game.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, stifle your first land, wasteland your second land, Delver.
Flip Delver.
Flip Delver.
Counter every other spell you play.
Certainly things, not uncommon to see out of a Rug Delver deck.
Yep, so it looks like Kendal also cracking his Misty on turn 1.
Yep. There are no stifles in Schlepphorst's deck.
Right.
There are wastelands though, so he always has to be a little careful with his mana to make sure that he's keeping himself safe from wasteland.
After board, what counters do you think Steven has in his deck? Do you think he has Forces, Dazes, Spell Pierces, all of them?
Here's the thing. I don't really like Force of Will and Bant. So it's really hard to answer what he's like. Clearly, Steven likes Force of Will and Bant. So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing when I say like that. Oh, I would side with the Force of Wills because I don't actually like them in this deck, so I'd side them out in every matchup. I think in this matchup, Force of Will is weaker. There's no one pivotal spell to counter. If he likes it though, he's probably keeping it in. Maybe get that turn 1 Delver to slow him down enough to the point where Schlepphorst can reach a spot in the game where he feels comfortable making larger drops.
Sure. A lot of the times the Bant deck just wants to live to untap with its Knight of the Reliquary, slowly take over the game, untap with its Chase the Mind Sculptor.
He's going to draw, so he has a second basic, and he'll play Scavenging Ooze.
That's a pretty good one in this matchup.
Yeah, Scavenging Ooze can be any. Right now is just a 2/2. It's very lightning boltable. I don't know if we have a kill spell for it. He also has Mates of Ith in his hand, so Schlepphorst is just trying to make very fair plays. That Force of Will coming down a little late for Guthrie.
Even so, the Scavenging Ooze not that big of a deal. It's going to start to eat Kendal Guthrie's graveyard.
Well, it's great when Kendal Guthrie's best threat is Tarmogoyf. Scavenging Ooze is a real trump to Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, it really is, and Kendal Guthrie has to make sure that that doesn't grow to 4/4 if he doesn't have an answer to it. Now, he does have a Submerge in his hand, maybe even 2 Submerges, can't quite tell.
Well, he does control an island, his opponent does control a forest. Submerge could be a very fun play here.
Oh yeah. Best Submerges are, of course, in response to fetch lands. Shuffle the card away, bury it in the deck. Let's see if that's what happens here. Misty Rainforest, drawn by Steven Schlepphorst. And no, hold on. He's going to respond. That's a Submerge.
Yeah.
And okay, so the first Submerge, Spell Pierced. I believe this. Yep, the first Submerge, Spell Pierced. Now Kendal Guthrie thinking whether he wants to fight over this, and he does, pitching Stifle. And that was the other card that I thought might have been a second Submerge. If it was, he definitely would have used the other Submerge.
All right. Kind of getting this counter fight here, and yep, in response, Schlepphorst will get rid of the Spell Pierce. Or sorry, the Ponder. Yep, apologies. But
and now the fetch land will finally resolve the thing that went on the stack first.
right, so that means the Scavenging Ooze is being shuffled away.
Yep. Now Steven Schlepphorst was going to get a Tundra, so he could play Knight of the Reliquary. Now he can't do that because he's Spell Pierced.
Right, which is fine. I mean, Knight, his life total is healthy enough that probably delaying the Knight one turn isn't the worst.
Right. The only big deal here is that he might not have another white source, so that wasteland that's in play might be able to take out the Tundra.
Well, yeah, if that's the case, yes. You're right. The fetch was already in the stack. Schlepphorst almost want to just back up and be like, wait, no, go back, it's still a fetch.
Can I put this in play?
All right.
I'll still pay the 1 life.
Right, and there we go. All right, so no more white sources for Schlepphorst. Lack of basic plane is still coming back to hurt him. He can't reliably cast the cards he needs to cast. Another wasteland for Kendal Guthrie. Which, to be fair, if Schlepphorst has another way to find white, that won't be a problem.
Right. Now, Kendal Guthrie not playing the Delver, just going to say go. He'll hold up Brainstorm, and yeah, there's a Force of Will drawn by Steven. He can't cast it now.
Yeah, Maze of Ith is in Steven's hand. Steven's going to opt not to make Maze of Ith.
Right, he doesn't want that wastelanded.
Third land by Kendal Guthrie. I still think I almost want it wastelanded. Isn't the white source better? Oh, possibly not. I mean, the problem is like, what are you hoping to draw into? You have to kind of make a plan for yourself. If you're not going to make the wasteland, the Maze of Ith, what is your plan? Is your plan to sit here until you draw a way to make white?
Yeah, I think Steven Schlepphorst wants to draw a fetch land. That'll go fetch a white duel. He'll get to play his Knight. It might resolve, it might not, but the white land will certainly be wastelanded, and then the way will be open for Maze of Ith. Now, this plan, of course, backfires if he doesn't draw a white land for a few turns.
Right, and there's a couple other issues. Schlepphorst getting very close to having an activated Nimble Mongoose. Schlepphorst also has a Lightning Bolt in his hand. Guthrie's close to turn on Nimble Mongoose, and Guthrie has a Lightning Bolt in his hand. I think Schlepphorst's life total is much lower than it appears.
Right. Schlepphorst, though, might not know that.
All right, 2 more damage, so he's down to 12. And yeah, I'd say Nimble Mongoose is probably... No, he's just going to pass back the turn. He's not going to make the Mongoose.
That looks like he wants to keep up both Stifle and Lightning Bolt. Not sure about that.
Too many cards in hand for Schlepphorst.
And yes, Steven's deck
he just knows, and he knows that this isn't something you can do against Rogue Delver.
Right. Can't show up to this fight with only a basic forest and a basic island. He needs some permanence here. He needs a white source this turn. And though he doesn't know it, it can't be a fetch land.
And now Nimble Mongoose, so it's a 1/1 now. 5 cards in graveyard easily can become a 2/2, a 3/3 if he wants it to be.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think Steven's going to get this. It seems like it's too little, too late.
Yep. Now, I mean, if he plays the Maze of Ith, it gets wastelanded before it can get activated, and I think Kendal Guthrie's going to be on to make this an all-rug finals.
Yeah, like I said, I think we were talking about earlier, said it's certainly a possibility that Rug is just a powerful enough deck. And there we go, there's 7 cards in the graveyard if Guthrie wants them there.
Yep.
Certainly a powerful enough deck to do that.
It really is. It can just run people over who aren't prepared. It can run people over who keep slow draws, who keep draws that are really dependent on that white source.
Right, and second fetch. Guthrie's down to 16. Mongoose becomes a 3-3. And that's a 2-turn clock easily on the board, not to mention the lightning bolt that's in his hand.
Right. This is all over but the crying for Steven Schlepphorst. He'll have to settle for a top 4 finish here in the Legacy Open here, Star City, St. Louis. But for right now, unless something strange happens, it looks like Kendal Guthrie will be on to the finals.
All right, yeah, swing for 5. Schlepphorst is down to 5 life.
Well, one more attack should do it. He even has Stifle at the ready.
Yep. Just too many cards, man. All right, and there we go. There's the third land.
Too little, too late.
And doesn't make white.
Now can't cast a single spell. White spell, white spell, white spell. Jace, Jace. Mazavith land.
Mazavith, go. He's just very resenting. He's there patiently. He knows what's happening here. All right, sure. Red blast.
For good measure.
Swing. And untap. Okay, goes to 2, and Guthrie will present the lightning bolt. All right, and there we go. Kendal Guthrie moving into the finals.
Congratulations, Steven Schlepphorst, on his top 4 finish, but greater congratulations, Kendal Guthrie, onto the finals of this Legacy Open. 2-0. 2-0 for Kendal Guthrie, 2-0 for Ben Robinson. Really, Rugg just, I'm sorry, 2-1 for Kendal Guthrie. We didn't actually see the game that Steven Schlepphorst won.
Right, so I mean, on camera, Rugg certainly showing up under the lights.
Yeah, a dominant force here in this top 8. It was a deck that a lot of people, Caleb Durward included, said was not the deck to beat anymore, but